I would like to convene this special meeting of the library board to discuss the agenda that's posted. I would like to note that all of the library board members are present with the exception of Sean Clarence. First,
There he is.
oh, there he is. And I'm sorry, Zoom has just put something in front of me so that I have to take it off. Excuse me 1 second. And I would like to move to approve the special meeting agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The first item of business is the payment of the library vouchers.
Did you want to do the consent agenda, Peter?
I'm looking at the agenda that we have. I don't know what the, am I looking at the wrong one? It's the one that was posted for Thursday special meeting.
It was reposted for Monday's special meeting, and there's a consent agenda of the financial document.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong agenda then. I apologize. Yes, I will. Is there anything that anybody wants to pull from the consent agenda? Hearing nothing, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Anybody want to move to approve the consent agenda?
I would so move.
Thank you, Sean. Any second? Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Again, I have not been able to find that other agenda, so I apologize. I'm just looking at the one that's posted in this packet. So is the next item the vouchers?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I think
Sean,
it's the
would you
same.
like, Sean, would you like to address this?
Sure. Yeah, I've reviewed them and signed them and saw nothing out of the ordinary and would move that we approve them.
I will second that motion. Call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. As my agenda man, would you please go to the next one, Kip? 'Cause I don't.
Reserve fund resolution.
Okay, thank you. Have we heard from anything back from Abigail?
Yes, and there has been a reserve fund resolution draft that was emailed out and is linked on the agenda. That's let me put it in the chat so you know it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry.
Hang on for just a second, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know about others, but I haven't had a chance to see that resolution yet.
Yeah, I haven't either, but
I did see it, but I just saw it.
And it's there's a link in the chat for you to move to it.
you want to talk us through it, please, Kip?
Sure. What it essentially does, as you know, the library has a reserve fund that has been called building repair and maintenance. However, after doing one, we had the Bureau Veritas facility assessment. We also have a number of capital projects that could be on the horizon that may or may not fall under the specific building maintenance and repair, but would still be a capital request. So what this resolution does is says that the library board will request a budget amount to be determined annually by the board to be set aside into a reserve fund that would be expended for building maintenance and repair and for other capital expenses, but not operating expenses.
Right.
And Abigail may want to chime in about some more of the specifics.
Yeah, my apologies for getting it out so late. I mean, if people want to just take a minute or two to read it, but it does a couple of things. It acknowledges that you've already been doing this. It says that you want to continue to do it. It gives you the discretion to do it on the years that you wish to do it and in the amounts you wish to do it. Doesn't have any, sometimes these have specific amounts that you're to set aside every year. I kept it as broad as possible. And the language, except for the last paragraph that limits it to non-operating day-to-day operating expenses, it pretty much allows anything after that. So the word, yeah, I initially kept thinking capital reserve for capital projects, but capital just means money. The name
Well,
of your account being since it got switched over to Katie being capital reserve funds. So it's intended to be very broad, but with that pretty much one limitation of not being for day-to-day operating.
Well, I went back through the meeting minutes back to 2012 to try and find any guidance from what it was done when it was set up, and it was just set up, and there wasn't really any. It's been practiced. 1 second, Dale. Just a second. We've had 2 years that I've known in the last 5 where this fund was not funded at all. And we've had 3 years in the last 5 where we funded it. So, and it's to the tune of about the same amount of money that we're suggesting for this year in this year's budget. Is it your understanding, Abigail, were you able to find anything that actually codified what the board originally did?
No, I couldn't find anything. And I don't think any of you found it as well. And if you look at the beginning of the recitals, I very specifically put in the language from the statutes that says that, the library board has been created, that once the library exists, that the county commissioners shall budget money for the library every year. And then the next statute is that the library board may spend that money. So I tried to, even though it's not expressed, it does to, reflect in the resolution that the county commissioners have a statutory obligation to fund the library, how much. They don't have a particular amount they're held to. And then once they do that, it's the library board's discretion to spend the funds because of that word may. So as I think you've been well within your authority to have not spent all the money you've been allocated. And that's, so I tried to make that clear with putting the exact language of the statute in the initial recitals, and then having a recital that says you have been doing this and that you want to continue to do it.
Dale, do you remember what was done when we rebuilt the library and added on?
Yes, and that's when we did this. When we built the new library and opened it in 1997.
Yeah.
That's when we started what we then call the Capital Reserve Fund. So I don't know if there are any minutes that far back, but I doubt it, quite
I
frankly.
couldn't access them, so.
But that is when we did it, because we had, it was a new building, kind of a new beginning. So.
The document we're reading says draft. Are you at a point, Abigail, where you're comfortable that the draft could be removed if we so
Yes.
choose to adopt it today?
Yes. Yeah, I kind of debated leaving it on there, but since I knew people hadn't seen it in enough time to discuss it amongst, yourselves or, before even this meeting, that if anyone had any questions, if you wanted to tinker with it, we can make changes, and then I'll pull the draft off and finalize it for signature. But if it looks good the way it is, I'll just pull the watermark off and it can be signed.
Should it be budget and expend in, I guess that would be the third paragraph there, just pointing out what looks like a
1 second.
typographical
This
error.
is probably the exact same thing
Oh,
asked about. Is this the exact same thing Kip asked about?
it is, but I looked at the wrong paragraph. Yes, Sean is correct. That is the one I was trying to find.
Okay. Oh, okay. Hold on. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, pursuant, control use and disposition of
May I
library.
suggest then, since we've got
Oh,
some,
yes.
let's not do this in today's meeting then, and give us all a chance to read through this carefully. If we need to, is there a need for this for the budget approval submission?
No,
Oh,
Okay,
it just tied into our request.
so let's bring this up at our, let's get this at our March meeting then, if you don't
Okay.
mind. I think that will give everybody we need to have, we need to have the proper, it may only take us 5 minutes, but let's do it at the next meeting.
Okay.
I do have a quick question about it. So it seems to me that it's a good thing that it's as broad and non-specific about numbers or anything. Is that everyone's sense that you like that? The freedom in it?
That's what Abigail and I discussed, that it was best to leave it as open-ended.
There's
I
no,
certainly
there's
like it
no
because-
floors, there's no, yeah.
I think it's so, because if you think about our plant as being worth, I don't know, $6 or $7 million in the couple years down the road, if you're taking an appropriate amount of depreciation expense in as your reserve for capital, a fixed number is not a good thing.
Good. I like it.
Nina, do you have any comments, or Sean? Dale?
I'm good.
Okay. Do you mind if we defer this to the March board meeting, and if we have any comments, we'll circulate them around by email. All right, moving on. I presume we go to the budget.
That's what we're here for, I guess. And this is my first time doing this. This is the first time using this software. And I don't really know where we want to start. I think I'll start with the broad overview and just compare it to last year's budget. We are, based on last year's budget compared to this year's request, we're looking at almost essentially a level funded budget for a number of reasons. It's just under a 1% increase from what we had requested or what we had prepared for a budget last year. I think the highlights of this budget would be, as it probably is every year, is salaries and wages and benefits. This year, the numbers for those expenses were preloaded by the clerk's office. Maureen and I double checked everything. Her numbers match our numbers. The request for salaries and wages includes the new salary plan and a step increase for staff. It does not include what the commissioners may decide in later this year, I guess. Will there be an additional 2.5% or an additional 5%? Those are the two numbers that they're looking at. This just assumes the current wage plan that's in place. Initially, I expected salaries and all of this to cost more than it did in FY22. However, looking back at the previous year's budget, there were a number of accounts that were possibly over budgeted, or I'm not sure. Health insurance is projected to cost about $50,000 less under what the clerk entered in the workforce plan. We had budgeted about $48,000 for HSA contributions. That's on the employee, so I don't know why that was budgeted. The 457 match is paid for out of the general fund rather than the department's budget. So there were a number, and also there were a number of senior employees in the past budget that were at the top or near the top of the salary range. They have since left the organization. And so salary costs for those positions are much lower, even with the increases, because we're looking at step 1 instead of step 15. So it turns out that salary and wages and benefits are approximately the same as requested for last year, despite some of the increases. Also in this budget is a request for 2 positions. I don't know if you had a chance to see those requests. One is for 24-hour per week maintenance technician that would help Rick in his work here. 2 facilities and grounds is a lot of work for one person who's also managing a budget and preparing contracts and all of that. So we would like to bring on board a half-time person, and the other position, a very nominal amount, but is a community entry services position that would be just sort of doing a community good deed, helping someone gain some skills. We're talking about $700 for that position. So that is the highlights in wages and salaries. I don't know.
Can I
if
ask a
there's
question about that? Yeah. What are the current open positions that you have budgeted to be filled?
Those are included in the budget. We have a senior library assistant position, an administrative assistant position, and the IT technician position. And those are budgeted for within an appropriate range.
And do you anticipate that, I mean, I know it depends on who shows up at the interview, but is that something you anticipate that might be concluded before the beginning of the next fiscal year?
I would hope to say yes for all 3 vacant positions. There is actually a job offer on the table for an administrative assistant, so that position may be filled very soon. The other 2 positions remain vacant.
Thank you.
Any questions about wages?
Yes, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Hang on just a minute. I'm looking for the. So actually, we have 4 vacant positions, right? The
Well,
administrative assistant, the 2, the IT, and the 2.
one of the senior library assistant positions has been filled.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. And where did you get the information about the health insurance decrease?
Those, well, they're the cost figures that Maureen has, and they plug those in. She's, for the vacant position, she's assumed the family insurance cost. So there's a little padding there should we only hire someone who wants the single insurance. But those are everything on the document you see that says workforce plan.
Right.
Yes.
Has all been filled in by the clerk's office based on what they know.
Okay. That makes me a little nervous just because I've never heard of health insurance going down. I'm sorry to say.
I know, I thought it was a little strange. The one piece that I don't have an answer for under workforce plan is unemployment insurance. All of our funds management and accounting transferred to the county. They all became costs that they were paying automatically for us and are calculated here, except for unemployment insurance. And I don't have an answer as of today. So the workforce plan could change by $19,000 is the projected cost for unemployment insurance. So once I have an answer from Maureen on that, the workforce plan cost may go up by $19,000.
Okay, I also had a question. Is it okay, Peter, if I ask several questions?
Well, please, I just had a follow-up
Yeah.
to what you just asked on the, I just want to make one comment, Dale, sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
The last 3 budget years, we've had health insurance costs, because we're off cycle, because the pricing for health insurance happens in November. And our budget we submit now for July 1st. We've had 3 significant increases in the last 3 budget years. And I believe in last year's budget, which is our current operating budget, Deb had made a guesstimate of an increase in what that health insurance was going to cost us. I can't remember the exact number, but it was something like 12% increase. And I'm not sure what the actual was relative to that. Is there a fudge factor, so to speak, in our budget submission for the health insurance?
The workforce plan is the section of the budget that I cannot edit. If there is an increase, it might require a budget adjustment mid-year.
That would be countywide.
Yes, yeah, these numbers are every department is seeing these same costs for health insurance plugged in.
Thank you. Sorry, Dale. I wanted to make sure.
And that's my concern also, because at least once in the past, we had a 20% health increase mid-year. And the county did not kick in any extra money. They told us we had to get it out of our budget. And that's the reason why we did start putting a fudge factor in there, because we got slammed that particular year with an unanticipated increase. And I mean, everybody does the best they can to estimate these things, but that was a huge, much bigger than what we had anticipated. So it's a little nervous making because of that experience. And the county just said, you got to find it. So, which we did.
And based on what we've learned from Abigail, we can't take money out of we can't use non-operating expense money to pay for operating expenses, and health insurance is an operating expense. Maybe we can direct you guys to bring this up again one more time with Mo and say, could we set a reserve on our budget for a potential increase?
I think Abigail has something to add. Abigail?
Yeah, you could. I mean, I need to double check, but there's no reason why I could not put operating expenses as an allowable use on your reserve fund. When I was looking at, that's a policy decision for you folks. So
we don't want to do that.
I don't think we want to do
We
that.
don't want to do
just
that.
throwing it out there. That's fine.
Yeah.
So
Let's not do that.
But I wouldn't mind putting a reserve on our budget for a potential increase if that's going to be allowed.
Well, let's ask. It
No,
never hurts to ask. Yeah,
Right.
let's ask, because I don't know that. The other question I had was, I am not familiar with this format. Obviously, none of us are. And so I have a couple of questions about that, just to make
I'll
sure
see
I
if I can
understand.
try and explain it.
Okay, so I'm looking at the new budget. I mean, the new, projected budget. And at the top of the first page, on the right-hand side, it has period 1 base, period 1 itemizations, period 1 adjustments, period 1 position requests, period 1 proposed.
Okay.
Now, I don't really get what that is, because some of those columns have numbers in them, some don't.
Grace had the same question, and I'll
Yes.
try to explain. And probably what I should have done is tried to remove the first three columns. In the first column, those are numbers that were preloaded by the clerk's office.
Okay,
Actually, the second column were numbers added by the clerk's office. The third column is the last three really add in the third and the fourth column. Some of the accounts have itemizations under a broad title. So like telecommunications might have phones, hotspots, and three or four things under it. And those feed into that total cost. And so then those total costs are shown in either the fourth or fifth column. All that being said, the fifth column is really the only one that matters in this.
right. I did figure that out. Yeah, but I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, some are preloaded, some are the grand totals of accounts. The other column shows the subtotals under the grand total, and then the fifth column shows everything. So really just focus on the fifth column.
Yeah, no, that's what I've been trying to do. And the other question I had was how you said this includes the step increase for the
Yes.
salaries. And I was just wondering, do we know what that dollar figure is?
I don't actually, I could probably open a document that might give you an idea. Do you want me to try to open that document and look?
I just think that's a good number for us to have when we go to the commission. I mean, there is a certain amount traditionally of, trying to sell the budget in a positive way, that we've been very careful about any increases and so forth and so on. And I know they are very aware of difficulties with vacancies and are working very hard on the salary issue. But I think that might be a good figure for us to isolate.
It would take some work looking at the document that I have.
You don't
I can
have to
tell
do
you-
it right now, Kip.
I can tell you that the commissioners did say budget for the step increase.
Right. And I just like for them to know that that's a substantial amount of the
Yeah,
difference between this year and last year. And, I just think that might be a good number to have.
I will see if I can figure that out and get that to you.
Thank you.
We are currently in the process. It may be a little more difficult. For some reason, the library has run is not in step with how the county policy works on step increases. The library had been giving step increases to everyone on January 1st, rather than the county policy of being anniversary date. So we are in the process of migrating over to step increases happening on staff's anniversary date. And the only way to make that equitable is that current staff who were hired before 2021 would stay on the January 1st date. Anybody hired in the last calendar year and going forward will have their step increase on their anniversary date.
Okay.
So there's a lot of math to do, but I'm sure we can figure that out, Dale.
Yeah. That's all I have right now, Peter.
Okay. Should we move on to the next section? I'm sorry, Kip.
Oh, sure.
I presume our materials.
Yeah, I'm thinking, well, just some highlights under utilities. Most have stayed about level funded. However, the cost of natural gas has gone up considerably. I believe the budget is almost 85% on the cost for next year. So there's a significant jump in what we're budgeting there. Historically, under training and travel, the library has only budgeted $5,000 for training and staff development, and has historically spent $12,000 to $15,000, expecting other budget lines to sort of absorb that cost, I guess. So this year we are asking to budget $20,000. This also includes board trainings and development. One of my goals is over time to see staff participation in regional and national in the library profession. So I'd like to see more staff attending conferences, presenting at conferences. And then also I would like to be able to have periodic in-house trainings. One that we're working toward sometime this year would be to have a training on DEI in the library. And so some of those costs are built into that request. So any questions about that request?
Is that enough?
Well, I've worked in places where by union contract, 1% of the operating budget had to be set aside for training. I did a quick search over the weekend to see what the national average was, and it's in the 1% to 3% of salary costs. And this puts us, I think, just over 1%.
That's over 1%. Yeah.
And I think that that's a good place to start, and we can see how we do and then perhaps up it again in the future years.
This is one of the areas where I think thinking about this as not a number, but as a percent of salary and or of our operating expenses is a good thing for the future, not for this budget cycle, but because it's just, now that inflation is somewhat back and we don't know how long it's going to be more expensive to do these things. And I think to the extent that we can get everything more as a percentage of our budget and think about it that way.
There has been a small amount set aside in the foundation budget for travel and expenses like that, but I don't see that as an enhancement. I think that should be an operating cost that the library should be asking the county to support. So that's where I think we should head. And I agree with you, Peter.
Thank you.
Other things of note, office supplies, we have historically over budgeted in that account. And I would just like to bring it down to something closer to what we actually spend. So it's about $5,000 less than we had budgeted this year. And then really the other big item would be library collections, books, media, subscriptions and supplies. In 2019, the library collections budget was at about $255,000. And it has been, for some reason, and no one was able to provide me with the history, the library was asked to cut their materials budget. And so the last 2 to 3 years, it's been level funded at about $221,000. The cost of library materials, most notably the streaming services that we offer, digital resources, ebooks, those costs continue to rise. So $221,000 level funded is essentially a budget cut every year. So I don't want to jump in and over request, but I think we should at least go back to where we were in 2019. The foundation is being asked to fund enhancements of those collections, but I think the library's base materials budget should at least be where it was in 2019. You could certainly make the argument that it should be even higher, but I don't know how others feel about that.
I think our materials budget should reflect what our materials cost is and assume that we're going to continue to have growing expenses over time. I appreciate the incredibly good efforts on the part of the foundation and the friends who provide us with some of that. But I'd like to, those are precious dollars, and I'd love to have those used in other ways if we can possibly capture what our main mission is in our own budget.
I did look up again what the national average is and for collections, and it's usually 10 to 12% of the library's operating budget. And this would put us, what did I say? I don't know. I can't do the math, but I think it's still slightly below that. But I think it's something we should work toward.
Okay.
And this is a good start to doing that.
I mean, people and books is what a library is, so
Right.
like that's where you
Right.
should spend your money, in my opinion. I'm gonna assume that the youth get half of what the adults do because youth books are less expensive, or are we short shrifting our youth here?
We are giving them an increase. The percentage breakdown is still approximately where it's been. It is lower than I am used to, but there's some planning that has to be done. We have to look at the space considerations. What can they handle in terms of adding more items? Could they handle that big of an increase? So for now, it's going to stick to about $20,000, $21,000, which is about half of what we spend on adult books. But we will, it's something I plan to look at.
I encourage that, given, our feeling, what we sort of discovered in COVID and limiting the building for young people versus old people. But that's not the right way to say it. Older, I'm the old person here. The over 18, non-youth. I think we just need to make sure that we're getting our youngest users the ability to be as creative and
Yes,
thoughtful as possible.
I would agree with that. And that's not to say that we wouldn't change the amount as the year goes on. We're just proposing the lump sum of $255,000. We can decide how to break that down at any time. So it could go up even in this current proposed.
And the Alta number is a space issue. It just seems so low.
Yeah, it's pretty much limited to space, and that Eva consulted on these numbers, and
Okay.
but she didn't want to see them go up too much because she just can't put them anywhere.
Yeah.
I guess the other item that's worth looking at is there's a new account called Library Programs. In the past, all library programs have been funded through the foundation, which is wonderful. But that doesn't allow a lot of, one-off programs. We just got the new, I'm not sure what you call it, Creative Bug, the new crafting video service that we now offer. And somebody wants to do a sewing program and show off what you can do in Creative Bug. And we don't have just a little pot of money for these little one-off programs that somebody thinks of. Most of our programming is very large ticket items. And so I think it's important for the library to have a programs budget itself, separate from the foundation. And the 5,000 is sort of just a wild guess to see what, I have no idea what we might spend. We might end up needing a whole lot more, but for now, I think that's a good start. And so I'd like to see that built into the operating budget. And then the other item is the capital reserve fund. Based on the Bureau Veritas facility assessment, our projected costs for the building over the next 20 years to maintain the building is just over $3 million. We currently have 1.4 million on hand and just trying to figure out how much we should put into the reserve fund. We do plan to do a facilities assessment on Alta this year. So I don't know what those costs might look like over 20 years. But 150,000 per year would be a good start. It would allow us to fund more than $3 million over 20 years if we kept to the 150,000. And it would allow us to do other projects as is written into the resolution that we briefly looked at. So I think 150,000 is a good place to start for this coming year. I guess the only other piece that is noticeably different from this year's budget as opposed to last year's is there is no incorporation of the foundation's budget into this. The foundation, it sort of made it look like the library's operating budget included and the commissioners were approving a foundation budget last year. And with a change in the way we process bills through the foundation, how things get paid now, we're sort of back to where we used to be, from as I understand it. I have submitted, with the help of all the staff, a request of the foundation that totals just over $400,000. That's a projection of what the programs we would like to do over the next year cost. I don't know what the foundation is actually going to approve. We'd be happy if they approved all of it. But the way the budget is set up here, it's just a pass through. It's the revenue coming in and the expenses going out. There's no impact on the library's operating budget from what the foundation does.
No.
So that's why you don't see it incorporated into all the programming lines, all the advertising lines, because it is truly separate from the operating budget that you and the commissioners approve.
So I have two questions.
Yes.
Jeff, have you budgeted any money for outreach, new outreach programs? Because I know that's one of the missions that you have, is to better serve some communities that may not have heretofore been served as well as you would have hoped.
Those are at the moment still, they would be represented in what's been requested from the foundation.
Okay.
And
that's good.
I see them as enhancements right now because I don't know truly what the community is going to say they want or which communities need to be served. And so strategic plan process will lead us to that.
Well, and that was my second question, which is, should the strategic planning process ultimately, I don't think we envision yet a consultant, but if it were to bring a consultant in, is there money in the budget for that?
There is currently, in the current fiscal year foundation budget, I believe $10,000 available for a consultant, and I've built in a request to include funding in the next fiscal year for that as well.
Super, thank you.
In the foundation budget.
Yes, in the foundation budget. And you could have that conversation. Is that an enhancement, strategic planning, or is that something that should be part of the operating budget? You could go either way. It's probably easier to get the foundation to agree to fund it.
I have a general question, Kip. You began by telling us that we were just a little over 1% above last year's budget request.
Yes.
Where does this budget stand with respect to this year's forecasted actuals?
Ooh.
We were underrunning the last times we talked about it. So where are we with respect to where you think we're going to come in this year?
I'm going to put Stella on the spot and see if she's been playing in those numbers. She might be able to ballpark that for us.
Yeah, I think that was one of the county's requests, is that you account to year to date or forecasted year end.
Hi.
Hi, Stella.
So I was just looking at this today. At the moment, it seems like most of our accounts at the moment are about 40 to 50%. We do have a couple of accounts that are currently over budget. One of those would be the training and development account, which of course, as Kit mentioned in the fiscal 23 proposal, we are requesting more in that account. In terms of our collections, at the moment, we're running under budget other than one section, which was periodicals is slightly over, but in terms of the overall fiscal 22 budget, that's still under. If you were to look at the actuals for last month for January 2022, there's nothing showing for snow plowing. However, in the last few weeks, we did pay some snow plowing bills. So we're going to start to see some increases there in terms of maintenance. So at the moment, though, it's appearing that overall we'll probably run under budget. But like I say, unless some of the spenders start, really amping up their collection spending, and then also depending upon how we wind up with some of our building and grounds maintenance. Does that answer your question, or?
Well, I think, when it goes to county, it would be good to have that comparison. What is our forecasted year end budget versus this new budget?
I don't know.
I assume we're going to underrun still. So how much?
The software is how we submit the budget now. So there isn't a place to include that. So I don't know if they actually want that information this year or not.
Maybe
No, but
just know it.
I would anticipate the question because a lot of the commissioners in the past have said, oh, you're running 15 or 12% underneath your last year's approved budget. So you're actually asking for a 13% increase, not a 1%
I see
increase.
what-
Right.
So they really want to understand that, if that's the case, why we were underrunning and then why we won't be underrunning next year.
Right.
That's easy enough to answer.
Okay. Am I capturing your issue there, Grace? Is
Yes, thank you.
We'll make that part of our presentation to them.
Good.
Do we know when that will be, Kip?
The budget technically closes today for
Mhm.
edits. However, because of the slowness of getting some of this working, I believe Mo will allow edits for a while yet. We kind of are stuck in the process that the other departments follow, and they have steps that we don't have to go through. So we do have more time. I know Stella has the timeline posted on her bulletin board, so she might be able to specifically tell us the timelines. You again.
So it looks like April 18th through April 28th are blocked out for meetings with all offices and departments. So we don't have our specific date, but sometime between April 18th and April 28th.
Okay, thank you.
So for today, if I'm understanding, there are two possible edits that are outstanding for this budget. Is the budget possibly for unemployment insurance and then a health insurance contingency of some sort. Other than that, did I miss anything? Are folks okay with the budget that's been presented without those edits?
Let me go around and ask. Sean, are you comfortable with what's going on, and do you have any additional questions?
I am, and I do not.
Nina? Okay, Grace?
My only question is maybe secondary, but we're looking to agree to the budget with edits, whatever. And then are we also separately approving the two position additions? Is that that's not part of the budget? I mean, I know they're included in the budget.
They're included in the budget, but I think having your separate motion to approve.
I think we need to approve those separately. So, okay, I didn't want to roll them together. Thank you. That's all I
Especially
had.
if it's a this year hire, this fiscal year hire, if you can make it, is it correct?
No, the two new the facilities technician halftime position would be July 1, and then the community entry services person would be July 1.
Okay, sorry,
So, yes.
misunderstood.
And those are not currently budgeted positions, so you do need to approve the creation of these two positions.
Dale, do you have any other concerns or questions?
No, thank you.
I don't either. All right, so I'll call for a motion to approve this budget with the two qualifications that we're going to find out whether we are able to have a contingency for the health insurance. And the second one that you mentioned as well, Kip.
Unemployment insurance.
Unemployment insurance. And we can discuss those issues if they come up at the March board meeting. Is that correct?
I would actually say you want to do the motion to approve the two positions first, since those are in the budget that you're approving.
Fine. I will take a.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. No, I appreciate being corrected. That's fine.
Can you approve positions without position descriptions? And
There are position descriptions for both that exist.
They're in the board
Within
packet.
the county. They are already approved positions.
oh, where am I missing?
They're in the special meeting.
Well, the justifications are in there. There's not,
It's in the verbiage.
I mean, I'm in the Dropbox, so I'm surprised I'm missing it, but I'll,
It's in the staff report, I think, for the financial.
I think it's also in Dropbox, but
It's in Dropbox.
it's not the actual official copy of the job description, which probably should have been there.
yeah,
They are two position. Well, only Parks and Rec that we know of has the CES custodian position. So it's kind of just it's not part of the job, the county's.
mhm.
That
Not a
job.
normal.
So I don't know that there would be a job description per se for that. But the facilities technician person is an official job description within the county.
Okay, so this,
And Rick, in his justification, did pull out most of the job description in that justification.
so the grade and that's all been gone through
Yes.
county human resources and,
Yes, that's based on, yes.
Okay.
That is real data that's included. The real.
Kip, we have had CES employees in the past at the library, similar to what Rick is proposing. So there may be a job description there. And, I'm sure it sounds very similar to what we've done in the past. So there may be one over there in some older files.
I'll reach out to Parks and Rec, since they're the only
Yeah.
ones that.
I'm sure they've got one too. Yeah.
And our model is based on what they're doing.
Mhm.
Ina, are you comfortable going forward with this without?
yeah, I
the-
think I was just used to the traditional one-page job description, so I thought this may have been just thoughts, not reality, but I'm fine with this if,
No, he pulled it from the actual job description, and
Great.
the pay grade and wage is from what that position is classified as.
Okay.
So there would be no issues.
just mushed in there with everything else. It's fine. Different presentation. I'll adjust.
Okay, so let me call for a motion to approve the creation of two new positions as described by Kip verbally and as written up in the report informally. Do I have a second of that motion?
I will
Second.
second.
Oh, sorry, Sean.
Sorry, Dale. You can
No,
have it.
that's okay. You go ahead. Just
I
as
love
long
it.
as I get it.
If
Yeah,
we're disagreeing about those things, that's easy.
yeah.
Do I have any further discussion?
Just a little bit on the maintenance technician, the facilities maintenance technician.
Yes,
You're going with the 21 hours per week. Is that what we're approving, or the 24?
it's 24 hours is what I've put into the budget.
Okay.
And that is the recommended number of hours, though 21, I believe, was an acceptable number, but I wanted to go for what was really desired.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions?
May never be able to fill the position, but
True. That's a whole other thing. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Okay. I will take a motion from anybody else to approve the submission of the budget for fiscal year 2022-23 as outlined in the documents that we have gone over, with the two other issues on health insurance and unemployment insurance to be determined, and perhaps we can address it back at our March meeting. Somebody.
I so move.
Thank you.
I so move.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you very much. I think that's our business for the day, is it not, Kip?
I think so. I think we survived.
I think. we did.
First
Peter,
time.
I'd just like to, and I know we all feel this way, I'm sure we do, that to thank the staff for all this work. I know what a huge job this is, and it's a challenge every year. It's getting more difficult all the time, I think, with the staffing issues, and I really appreciate, and I know everyone is involved in it. So I just wanted to make sure we send out a big thank you to the staff.
You took the words out of my mouth, and I'm sure the other board members' mouth as well. It's just, in a year of transition, we've transitioned the accounting and everything else over to be able to have this put together so well with a completely different way of looking at it is quite good. So thank you.
Thank you.
And
I
Kip,
will share
I
that.
want to also wish you a very happy and well-deserved vacation, which I think you're leaving for on Wednesday.
Yes, thank you. I will have my work phone with me, though.
Dale, did you want to ask a question? I'm sorry.
I think I can, I'm assuming we'll get this at the next meeting, and we'll probably have to have a little tune-up in terms of the monthly report format that we're going to be getting, because I'm assuming it's not going to be exactly what we have gotten in the past, but I guess it's easier to think about it when it's in front of you. So let's not worry about that today.
Stella and I will talk about that. I think what will happen is we'll take the county reports, reconcile them in QuickBooks, and you'll just continue to see QuickBook reports, and you won't see the county report. Does that sound about right, Stella?
Yes.
I don't think the county report is readable.
It's hard to manage line item, or at least understand line item issues using the county system. So
Yeah.
it's.
With the county reports, there's a separate report that comes from the clerk's office and a separate report that comes from the treasurer's office, and we
Right.
can narrow down our pages. But we'll have to take a look and see, because next month will be the first time that we're actually seeing any real activity on those reports thus far. So it may be that we might want to include it just so you have an idea just that first time. Kip and I will talk.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I will call for a motion to adjourn I will move to adjourn the meeting. How's that? Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you all very much. And really great, as Dale said, great job, guys. Thank you so much. Enjoy your vacation, Kim.
Thank you. I'm going to stop recording.
Okay.